Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ed Carbajal. Weekly, we are brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. Check out AllAccessMMA.com for our video podcast, MMA stories, and MMA news. Ed, a lot of news breaking today, a lot of chaos in the last few days. Take it where you want to go, brother. Take it where you want to go.
I mean, last few days, last few hours, it's still going on. I mean, we got to jump right into it because we were gonna do. We had something else planned for today. There's a reason we're recording late, by the way, guys. So apologize for that. We had something else planned for today, and then something else happened to change that, and it seems to be for our benefit because if we didn't wait a day to record, we would have recorded before the UFC shit hit the fan with UFC 294. Not hit the fan per se, but big last minute changes to the very important parts of that card. And then obviously the news of USADA and the UFC are apparently having a very, very ugly, as we speak, as we're recording, they're having a really bad breakup on it's a tumultuous relationship that has to still go on contractually, but by next 2024, USADA will be no more, and it's literally like Matt and I were just talking before we started recording because so the statement USADA released was pretty much was dropping fault on Conor McGregor and just pretty much a lot of shade, and then the stuff that the UFC came back with made it to the point that Hunter Campbell, UFC COO, his official title, he's the UFC's lawyer, in other words, and Jeff Nowitzki had to hold a press conference that I don't know if it's still going on right now. I know they had to address it. I know that the USADA had to address it, their legal, call by 5 p.m. your time. So it's literally like 30 minutes past that, or we're like 30, 40 minutes past that now. And I don't know if it's still going on or what. I mean, if you want like the most immediate, accurate updates, Aaron Bronstetter has been putting on he's got a super long thread about everything that happened, including their new partner, which is the same people that do the NBA, NFL, NHL, Drug-Free Sports International. So it's the DFSI. So, I mean, I don't know how folks are going to say that in 2024. I thought they were going to use the WWE wellness program, given the ownership and everything, but this is like a real shit show.
Yeah, no, it's pretty comical. It's pretty comical. Everything that popped down, just seeing the back and forth and the bitching from both sides. And I mean, I've been saying Connor's on steroids for the last year now, year and a half feels like. So there was a reason why he left USADA. Let's not be stupid. I know they're not going to come out and say it, but like acting like they're going to sue USADA over it. I mean, at that point, doesn't Connor have to kind of prove he's not roided out? I mean, it's pretty blatant what was happening, and it would have been better, honestly, in my opinion, if they just would have said he was taking a leave to get medically cleared,
Yeah,
something like that.
or an exemption. That's not like they haven't done that before.
I'm good with it though. USADA was a joke. USADA didn't catch anybody. It was a nuisance on fighters. I mean, I literally went to events and saw him like pee testing. Uh, Let's say Phil Johns, the guy, the submission guy, was in Bellator now. Was in UFC. I saw him literally like him getting rushed into the bathroom like minutes almost prior to his fight.
Oh wow!
For it was the tough finale when all the Nico Montoya Montano event. Yeah. I mean, I'm just grabbing a beer, going to take a piss, and here comes USADA pushing a guy into a stall in the bathroom, and the guy's hands are wrapped, and you're going, this seems a little bit unnecessary.
I think the process involves a blood drawing with a needle too. So they're sticking a needle in a guy before he fights seems a little stupid thing, like a stupid thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I just know, I overheard kind of the talk, step into my office and do your thing kind of thing.
Because one of the things I'm reading about this new, as I was trying to catch up with everything going on, this DFSI, apparently they use something called leeching where they don't have to break the skin. It's kind of like sucks shit out of the guy. That's why they call it leeching, just like a leech, to get the stuff they need to check people for testing whatever they test for. But it's crazy to watch. It's the the reactions from USADA, because like after everything that happened, just before recording, that they just said they stand by their statement of what they said of everything about McGregor and the UFC, and it just seems to be. And if folks didn't watch, what's the guy, the tank top guy again that Dana White's
Pat
always,
McAfee.
Pat McAfee, he was on his show earlier today, and he kind of like said, just wait, this is the quiet before the storm, because when they released that statement, that he was on that show, and that's when he said he was going to, our lawyer's going to be handling it, and that's where all this stuff is coming out now. And it just seems like it's like two very spiteful, crazy people breaking up. It's like Glenn Close from Fatal Attraction is breaking up with Gordon Gekko. I know it's the same actors, the same movie, but it's just crazy. It's just, I've never seen two people go back and forth legally or whatever it is. And so the first question that comes to my mind is like, okay, if you're still, because they're saying Hunter just told people they're going to keep moving forward because the contract's till the end of the year. So everything, fighters are asking, do we still have to do all these tests and answer the door when these fuckers come and bother us and all that stuff? And he's like, yeah, everything is status quo until 2024. But now you guys are being so pissy with each other. How do we know that these people aren't going to sabotage your events and say, everyone's fucking, I know that would be lying, but the way that they're acting, I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, I don't necessarily. I mean, I suppose that could happen. Um, I my more thing would be, so what if somebody pops? What's the
Mhm.
UFC gonna do? Are they gonna enforce it, or does it reset everything on January 24th or January 1st? Because basically this is just going to be in-house drug testing. Sure, they
Mhm.
do it for all the other leagues and stuff, but nobody in
Yeah.
those other leagues test positive for steroids. We're basically back to the golden era where where only the stupid people will test positive for steroids. And
Mhm.
that's how it should be. That's how it's always been. In all sports, it's only going to be the stupid people. It's going to be the people that have it on the shelf behind them when they're getting interviewed by somebody, or they're going to be so juiced out that it's just going to, they're going to break the ski. It's going to be or you're going to be guys like Chael Sonnen who just don't give a fuck, and basically we're like, catch me if you can, and you're gonna catch me a few times, and I'm gonna get away, and other times, and I'm gonna make as much money as I can, and perhaps boost my abilities enough to get world title shots and get paid. And who cares if I lose? I still made $4 million. You know what I mean? That's kind of the thing that I think might end up happening. And I like the idea, honestly, of them being open to using stuff to heal from catastrophic injuries, like it actually being out in the open. I've said that for God, probably a decade now. Like, why can't we just regulate what they allow these people to use? Because knowing that they're doing it anyway, and anybody who's been around this sport understands the physical demands, and it really is impossible, in my opinion, from what I've seen, to be at the top of the mountain and not be doing something at least on the way up to get there, because at some point you're going to get banged up. At some point you're going to need it. And I'm not saying people are shooting horse testosterone, but there's the banned list stuff is pretty wild. I mean, me and you, we could go down and buy the stuff that would get us popped by USADA. You know what I mean? So you there's always, I just feel like there's a happy medium, perhaps, where you go, okay, we'll allow up to this certain amount because you're doing this, and but your opponent's allowed the same thing, and maybe it's even regulated by the UFC, and or not so much by the UFC, but by the guy whoever took down Saddam, apparently, is
Yeah,
Saddam
yeah.
Hussein. That's another
Pir-
sweet little mix there
yeah,
that got
Piro is his last name. Is a former FBI guy. Yeah.
which I find a little bit ironic, because was it Saddam Hussein essentially wrongly accused of testing positive for WMDs, and now this dude's testing for PEDs. Like, what? You weren't very good, right? We basically were in a
George
20-year
Piro.
war. We were in a 20-year war with Iraq over WMDs in theory, and he never had him. And this is the guy that interrogated him.
Hmm.
How
Yeah.
Is that good on the resume or bad?
I don't know. I think it's a strange pick. I mean,
Is it supposed to be intimidating? Is it
I
supposed to be like, let's get
yeah.
somebody who the fighters might be like worried that he's going to waterboard him or something? Like what?
Yeah, like is it Liam Neeson from Taken, or is it,
That's what I mean. Is he going to plug him into the wall or something?
is Denzel Washington, is like the Equalizer? Yeah. That's a
Yeah, he's
good
like Jack
question.
Bauer, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like a real because what is the guy's background to do that? I
Independent
mean,
administrator of the promotion's anti-drug program. Nolan King tweeted out his Wikipedia if you want to look into his background. I'm just looking at it right now. Special agent in charge at the federal was special agent in charge of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Miami field office, and team leader and lead interrogator of Saddam Hussein interrogation team in 2004. So I don't know. I don't know where the I don't see anything about like drug testing on there.
so he's like
But
the Hunter Biden of drug testing.
I mean, if anyone's a Hunter Biden of anything, that's not a good look. But yeah. So the whole thing is just like it literally like I forgot what fights were happening this weekend. First like yesterday it was like okay, the changes to 294, which we're gonna get into, and we'll be doing our picks early because we're taking off next week. But um, like when the news of those fight changes, in my mind I was kind of like, okay, you know what, more interesting than what was initially there because honestly, like 294 felt like a non-card because obviously MSG's the following month as far as their pay-per-views go. And it just seemed like it was kind of, sure, Oliveira versus Makachev was a nice matchup and interesting and all that stuff. But um, when they made these changes that they made, they kind of just like made my interest more so. And now I kind of want, like, I didn't give a shit about it before. And now I'm, obviously I looked up the card and we're going to do our picks and stuff. But looking at it now, I'm more interested with the main and co-main event than what was initially there because I already forgot who. It was supposed to be Costa and Chimaev, which is just weird that Chimaev doesn't seem to. I guess he can only fight when they're there now. Well, like I don't know what his deal is, but yeah, it's just that was yesterday, and then that happened late Tuesday into Wednesday, and then today all this USADA stuff. It's like I know there's video that Junkie's gonna have up of the whole press conference that I want to go through, and I was reading through Bronstetter's like bullet points just before we started recording, and the stuff that they're saying and the reactions, the stuff from this Tyler, whatever his name is, I forget the USADA guy. Apparently, it's not Jeff Nowitzki anymore. It's some, it's some dude, Tyler
Some guy we've
something.
never heard of
Yeah,
that
yeah,
comes
yeah.
out of the woodwork now,
All of a
right?
sudden, Jeff Nowitzki's like that part of yeah. He's not down with them. He's whatever. He's down with the UFC and whatever they want to do. So I don't get it's crazy, but yeah, 43 minutes. So like just as we're getting ready to record, USADA said after all their media stuff, they said we stand by our statement and our credibility. That's per Bronstetter again with the really good bullet points. So if you're not following him on Twitter, he does a really good job of giving you a nice list. But it's insane. It's insane that this is happening, and I mean,
Now the lighter drug testing opens the door to bring WWE guys in. It's all
yeah.
it's all
You want to
it's
know what's
all
funny?
gonna
Like
come together.
when I was in my notebook, my notebook for today's pod is a mess because when I was making notes as this was happening earlier, I'm like, Jack Slack put out a funny tweet that he was like, they'll use WWE's wellness program, and I was like, that I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. And then he said something to the fact that, Jeff Nowitzki, which it looks like that's happening actually. He was like, Jeff with USADA gone, Jeff Nowitzki is going to be their drug guy, and it's just going to be the way, the way they did Mark Ratner when he was part of Nevada. Now he's a UFC guy. Nowitzki's now it looks like he's a UFC guy now, but now they have this DFSI and freaking Liam Neeson to to test drug guys. Not Liam Neeson, George Piro, but that's my Taken joke. Now I'm going to call him Liam Neeson every time we refer to him because we will be referring to him a lot in the future.
I just think it's funny. The UFC hires these guys that were supposed to be like regulators. That the guys that were supposed to be kind of butting heads with the UFC and
Hmm.
making sure they stayed in the on the clean and narrow are the same guys who the who all of a sudden get hired when they back out. It's such a wild thing of I'm sure there's so much behind the scenes. It's just got to be insane. The 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 deals and the stuff that goes on because I mean it just doesn't. It, but I like I don't I've always said I don't care about PEDs. Everybody does it. It's part of this fight. We're watching guys in a cage.
You want to
It
know
is what it
what's funny
is.
is because like one a very young guy I trained with who's hopefully gonna we'll be having him on the podcast soon and he'll be fighting. Shout out to Jaden Adesso that fucked up my knee, but he's going after it, training and competing a lot. Um, he just told me, and I was proud of him for doing. He's like, I just watched the Smashing Machine documentary, and and I'm like that's required viewing for anyone that wants to watch combat sports, and the whole thing, the focus on just PEDs and stuff with the career of Mark Kerr and kind of how that derails him. It just goes to show you how long it's been a thing,
But a lot of
and
his was painkillers and
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
but
that. Like,
still,
but obviously, you could look at their physiques and see that they look like Mr. Olympus and stuff
yeah.
in the cage. But um, yeah, I mean, we'll see how serious it is because, like I said, USADA wasn't catching people. Like there was not. You don't hear about people getting popped all the time. Maybe once every 3 4 months you hear some random guy from you know Russia or Ukraine or something comes in and he pops before he even fights in the UFC. And
And then you had
I
a
mean,
lot of fighters that did come under fire. That even like Josh Barnett, where he talked about how he spent a lot of his own money to defend himself against USADA when they cost him all the time. They cost him and a couple other fighters. I forget who the other one was.
Tom Lawler.
Tom Lawler. Yeah, just a lot of stuff that like they if anything for anybody, whether you're a fighter or whatever, your most valuable asset is your time. And if you're costing someone time away from something that you're passionate about doing, that's a really fucked up thing to do to somebody. So, I mean, regardless of the reason, when, why, or where, and if it was dirty, if it was clean, it's just that the making, I do feel for those guys for having to go through that. But maybe this change will just make it less so. Like you said, it's going to be really bad. Like they're literally going to have to catch somebody, with a needle, just be shooting something in the UFC PI, and to get caught. I mean, I know Andy Foster expressed gratitude. I think he was happy about the decision that the USADA relationship was ending. But I mean, between now it's October. We only have 2 months. October, November, December. We're halfway through October, so November, December. Of them still having to work with USADA, unless this gets uglier, and they just say that. But I don't know how ugly it's gonna get because it was literally still going on as we started recording.
Yeah,
It's
I don't know.
fucking
We'll have to
crazy.
see how it unfolds. It's
Yeah,
there's
it's funny though. You gotta admit,
no, it is funny. Like I
especially
said,
for you and me.
yeah, I mean, I expected the clown show of the day to be Dylan Dennis smashing Logan Paul in the head with a microphone, and here we are 6 hours later, and clown shoes are in the UFC and on USADA. I mean, it's just a funny back and forth, and now it's all public and everything uh, for a $10 billion company. Like, just I wouldn't even acknowledge USADA. Cut the contract tomorrow. Start your testing tomorrow. Tell your fighters you're gonna start testing in
Yeah,
2 weeks. I mean,
yeah. Get Liam Neeson
like
in and have him send out
yeah,
a memo.
because you do bring up
I
a good
I will
point that
catch you.
like it would be pretty crazy if all of a sudden the night before uh,
Madison Square
Madison
Garden.
Square Garden,
Everybody.
or the night before the other one, all of a sudden, you know, Colby Covington pops, and then or before,
John Jones and
oh,
Nietzsche
you
Steel
got the
and
living picogram
yeah.
because apparently you can have picograms for your entire life now,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is now apparently is now the official stance of the UFC is that once you do steroids once, you can have them in your system forever. So even if you test positive, it's okay.
Yeah.
There's Chael Sonnen might come back. I
The
mean, he
living
might.
yeah. I don't know. He seems pretty happy with what he's
Yeah,
doing,
no,
but
I mean, I just joking, but
yeah.
you never know. You never know what's gonna happen here. But and then the whole McGregor thing kind of circle back on that a little bit. Like it's it's clear what he did. I mean, McGregor doesn't shouldn't deserve the benefit of the doubt at this point. What has he ever done to recently
Yeah, I
to
mean,
deserve the benefit of the doubt? He
yeah,
makes a joke of himself every single step of the way. Even the fighters know. Chandler knows what he's getting into.
yeah,
Chandler's been accused of PEDs for his whole career, going back to Bellator, and he's passed a million of these kind of tests.
yeah,
So that's where And again, I'm not accusing Chandler of anything, but there was some fights he looked like the Incredible Hulk in the cage.
yeah,
It's just the truth. And I don't know. I think that the USADA being gone, I think the invasion, I think that 2 a.m. showing up to knocking on your door.
yeah,
I think that not being involved is good because that doesn't go on in any other sports. And these guys again are not they're not employees. They're contractors. So again,
hmm,
the invasion of privacy for a private contractor seems kind of odd to me how they were just able to decide that. Of course, there's no bargaining when they're not a union. They don't have any kind
yeah,
of they have no strength. So the
hmm,
UFC can do whatever they want to them, and um, but let's talk a couple of those fights real quick, and then we'll see what time we got left. Maybe refresh a little bit of the past Bellator weekend. But you mentioned those top two fights. Um,
yeah. Let me bring him up.
there's
UFC
a lot.
294, October 21st, from Abu Dhabi. Here it is. Islam Makachev and Alexander Volkanovski. Was originally Makachev and Oliveira, and then Kamaru Usman versus the number one 170 pounder versus the number four middleweight. I forget where he is because he's fought in different weight classes. Khamzat Chimaev, the UFC's favorite guy to blow up when they're over there, I guess. Those two fights, in my opinion, got way more interesting than what was initially there. I didn't mind Costa versus Chimaev, but this is definitely more interesting to me. Especially, it seems like if they do 185, when it's listed as middleweight on the UFC.com website for the event page.
Yeah.
So I feel like that kind of gives Usman a little bit of a break of not having to make weight on such short notice, and maybe he's just more comfortable, and we can expect an explosive Usman. And then obviously with the Volkanovski Makachev, their last time they fought, it was a split decision for Makachev, right?
Yes. I do like the Usman Chimaev fight. There is some curiosity how Usman rebounds coming off of his back-to-back losses to Leon Edwards. Like you said, we're gonna see like a kind of a fresh and healthy Usman,
Mm-hmm.
not depleted at all. So I'm curious to see what he looks like in the cage. And I'm curious to see how if he's able to be out wrestled, because
Mm-hmm.
essentially I think that's what we come down to here. Is I feel like Chimaev was gonna boat race Costa. I feel like he
Mm-hmm.
was gonna drag him down, and I don't know if Costa has that heart to be able to rally or the
Mm-hmm.
gas tank or any of that. If he were to get mauled for 3 minutes in a row, 4 minutes in a row in early in a fight. I'm curious to see where that's at with Usman, because Usman's at kind of an interesting stage here. If he loses this fight, especially if he gets whooped in this fight, he might not. Where does he fall in the middleweights?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go back and you go, well, if Edwards continues to win, Usman's got to be. I mean, you're going to be a handful of fights away from another title shot, and he's not super young, so I think that becomes an issue. I mean, I have to pick Chimaev to win the fight. Uh, because he's been essentially flawless in his UFC career. Obviously, the Burns fight had its moments, and that also kind of creates. But that was him cutting down in weight too. So
Mm-hmm.
this is both of them kind of at their big boy weights, and I'm interested to see. But I think Shemaev, his
Yeah.
wrestling, it seems like he's going to be the bigger man in the cage, at least in my mind. I'd have to see him square off, but I think he's going to be able to use his strength to wrestling and do what all those guys do and
Hmm.
and, and kind
I'm
of drag people.
assuming just because while you're doing your breakdown, I'm trying to do. Usually when we do these breakdowns, we do this sort of drop down to show them, like Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker, the way it looks right here. I'm trying to do it now with that matchup. on UFC.com, and I'm guessing because it's just less than 48 hours new, they haven't put their stats up yet. So nice job, UFC.com, $1 billion company. Can't update the website fast enough, but so I was distracted with what you said towards the end there about the matchup. Are you picking? You said you're just curious, or you're picking?
I think Chimaev's gonna win. I
Hmm.
think he's gonna. I think he's gonna win. I think he's gonna wrestle him and drag him around and and pick up a decision win. Probably a three. No, is this a 5 round fight? I think it's a
Uh,
5 round. I think it's 5 rounds. If I remember right, I read it was 5 rounds. That might change things because we've never seen. You know,
is it? Oh wait, why would it be? There's no
I
title.
thought that was part of the. I thought that was no. It says 3 by 5. Okay, on Tapology it says 3 by 5.
Yeah.
So, um, I thought I had heard it was a 5 round.
No, I don't see why it would be. Just because none of them are champions. So the
Yeah, I didn't know if it was something that Usman had worked into the deal in order for him to take the fight on late notice. That he'd want a fight that's longer to
I don't know
perhaps.
why he'd want to do that on short notice,
I
but
mean, because nobody's seen Chimaev really go past 3 rounds, and in three
yeah,
rounds with Burns, he
strategically,
was
yeah,
kind of wore out. So
yeah,
I think maybe that would be your strategy is go after
yeah.
kind of the new blood and drag him into deep waters and
I,
see
I I
where he's
think
at.
I honestly feel like Usman maybe is confident enough that he can do that in 3 rounds. Um, and unless because when I think about, you mentioned the Burns fight with Chimaev, Chimaev was noticeably winded in that fight, and he took some lumps from Burns. Like Burns survived his wrestling, and I think Usman can do the same. I know you're picking Chimaev, but he's plus 285 underdog on the UFC.com website, and they get their odds from DraftKings. So right now, and this is a week and a half before the event, plus 285. I'm liking Kamaru Usman a lot. I don't. Maybe he can decision him. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a TKO, to be honest with you, because I know he's got some power in his right hand. So yeah, I'm way more interested in this matchup. Um, and I think, oh yeah, they let me do it for this one. So Makachev and Volkanovski will drop down, but for some reason that
Eh,
that one won't.
it's got about an 18-hour lead start on the other fight. Um,
$1 billion company.
they need to get the guy who they need to get one of the SEAL team members that brought down Bin Laden and
Yeah,
get him to
yeah.
run their internet
They
now.
got to
Or
get Edward
their,
Snowden to work on their
yeah, there you go.
website.
There
Yeah.
you go. someone someone to handle updating their website.
Yeah.
With uh, yeah, I probably have an odd take on this fight. I kind of wanted to. I'm surprised the UFC didn't go the Gamrot route. You had it on the table, and it would have been a way to kind of get him out of the way, in a
Mm.
sense. Um, it's a good rematch. It's just another rematch. It's the reason why the Oliveira fight just felt kind of stale to me,
Mhm.
because it's just another rematch. And
Yeah.
I hear people all the time bashing boxing for rematches, and meanwhile UFC is replacing a rematch with another rematch. So
Mhm.
I mean, it's a great fight. It's a fight that had to happen, but I feel like it's a fight that should have had more hype.
Mhm.
Another, a couple wins for each guys, and then you do the Clash of the Titans again. Is how
Yeah.
I would have liked to see it unfold. You had Tapuri already lined up with Volkanovski, and you could have brought in Gamrot. You could have got rid of a couple of those challengers, and if
Mhm.
they would have picked up great wins, then you could do a big clash, and then this fight takes place. They're already talking about going to Saudi Arabia. I mean, it seems to me like they just want to milk the local cow. You know what I mean? They want, if it's Makhachev, okay, we're going to Dubai, we're going to Middle East. If it's Israel, we're gonna we'd like it if we can get him in Australia or New Zealand. And
Mhm.
I understand that, but when you're not having a lot of fights in those countries, it seems like Makhachev wins this fight. We probably won't see him for another, 8 months until maybe they go back there again. It seems like that's a trend that's kind of forming. You mentioned about Chimaev. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm going to go with Islam in this fight. I'm going to go with him to win more. I think he wins more emphatically this fight. Um, or especially early in the fight, I think he's going to do damage. I think he's got a full training camp. You got a late notice fighter. Um, Volkanovski doesn't have to cut weight for this fight, which is obviously good, but also in a sense, you don't know what kind of actual shape that they were in. You
Yeah.
hope that they're not cutting weight to get to, you're not cutting too much weight to get to that 155,
Yeah,
so
what do they have this at? Is this at
oh, it's lightweight. It's a
it's
lightweight title.
lightweight. So I feel like that benefits Volkanovski too.
It
Um,
does, unless you're walking around at 180 or 185 and you're not in great shape, and then you're going to cut 30 pounds in the next 3 days. You know what I mean? It depends how prepared. Now he had a fight not too long down the thing, so I doubt he was out of shape or undisciplined there. But you never know. It'll be interesting to see how the weigh-ins go for this, considering honestly the history too of Makhachev.
yeah. Hold on, my camera just conked out. So give me 1 second to turn it back on. But you can still hear me. So the hold on, let me just get out of here. The I just looked up the record. It wasn't a split decision last time. It was unanimous decision for Makachev, but I remember I disagreed with it. That's why I'm saying split decision. So, um,
Huh.
but yeah, I'm kind of just like I don't really I don't really see a downside to for Volkanovski here, and because of I feel I'm gonna rewatch it when we're done recording. So we always put up our Twitter stuff, our socials when we end the pod, but I'm definitely gonna rewatch it, and if I change my mind, I'll change it. But for right now, um, I think Volkanovski can beat him because I think he did really well against him. I think he did better. I think he did better than a lot of folks give him credit for it. I definitely don't agree with. I mean, I'm looking at the MMA record on Wikipedia. It has him as a unanimous decision. I remember disagreeing with that when I saw it. So I'm definitely going Volkanovski. I mean, what are the odds on him right now? Again, he's plus 270.
Yeah.
So and it's we're a week and a half away from it. So that's that's a nice little parlay right there. Usman Usman and Volkanovski. I might have to mess around and get stupid with my with my FanDuel or whatever. I bet on fights with. But
We'll see.
really quick before we even, I mean, it's so far out. Anything could happen with this card. I mean, apparently the UFC will have a lot of freedoms with with their regulation, but overall, I mean the the card is not bad. There's some fighters on there that might not be familiar to you because of where they're at. And they're pulling them from because they always try to pull a couple. Usually they try to pull a couple local guys, but the prelims, Tim Elliott versus Mohammed Mokayev, that's a great flyweight bout. That's probably going to be. I wouldn't be surprised if that fight wins fight of the night. Homeboy Trevor Peak is going to go in there and probably hammer fist whoever this silhouette Muhammad Yahya to death. I mean, it's gonna be a great card. It's early, 10 a.m. So that's a little early for me, but I guess you don't mind that too much. What's that, middle of the day, lunchtime for you?
Oh, 10 a.m. for you is
Oh, it's
7 a.m.
earlier.
for me.
Oh yeah, so it's
So
worse for you.
yeah, it'll be fine. I don't mind getting it done. I got a couple other things on Sunday, or Saturday,
Yeah,
so fight will be done by 1ish my time, and should work out. So
yeah, it should work out. But yeah. So let's try to get some. You were at Bellator 300 last weekend, and I have it crossed out because I was gonna ask you since you were there and I could not be. I saw Jimmy Smith talk about how it was kind of like sad or whatever. But did you get that out of that event? It seemed like it just went by like a regular Bellator event for me sitting here watching at home.
no, it definitely had a feel. First of all, I gotta say it because I gotta when something shitty, I'm gonna say it. They had the worst sound. The San Diego Sports Arena, the Pechanga Arena, is terrible. It's
Mm,
probably the worst sports arena in the country, and people generally bring in their own sound systems. Well,
mm,
Bellator, I think, went on the cheap. I think Viacom decided to go on the cheap. The
mm,
sound in the arena was absolutely was pathetic. I mean,
mm.
I couldn't tell whose name was being announced, and I was,
Oh
you know,
wow.
5 rows away, from the ring cage. So it was one of those things. Like I had no idea what was being said during the whole thing. So that was kind of a downer because it was just crappy production on that side. But on the good side, I love that like Pride entrance, the rise in
Yeah, I like that too.
glory
From at home,
K1
I love
thing.
that. Yeah.
That was cool on the stage where they brought everybody out. They had the background fireworks and the flares and everything else going. That was cool. It's just I couldn't understand what they were saying when they were introducing people. So it was kind of crappy in that sense. But I saw Jimmy Smith. He walked by me. I was able to wave him down and shake his hand and thank him for again for all the things that he did for me over the last 14 years being around
Hmm.
Bellator. I mean, the dude introduced me to Fedor. He will always be
So
somebody that will
you
will
talked to him. You didn't ask him to come on this podcast.
Dude, he was seeing a lot of old friends. I don't recognize a lot of the people from I don't know the faces from Viacom and stuff that he was mentioning and all that. But I did notice that there was a lot of hugging, a lot of daps and just a
Mm,
lot of just, you know, good to see you again kind of thing. So I was able to say, thank him and shake his hand again. And first time I'd see Jimmy Smith out in a fight since his last
mm.
Bellator
Yeah, because then he
fight.
went to do WWE
And they went
stuff.
to
And
WWE, and then I went to
good deal.
WrestleMania, and he lost. They took him away from WWE like that week. So it was first time to kind of run into him, and especially with the facial hair now, he doesn't super remember me, but he knows who I am, and
Mhm.
and then when I mention, I bring his mind, and he knows what he's done for me and stuff like that. So good man, but I kind of feel what he was saying. That's kind of what there was a little bit of that
Mm.
feel to it, like okay, like why are all these people here? You know what I mean? Like if it's just a regular event and they're not going anywhere, or things are not happening, then why am I seeing these guys? Now Bellator brought everybody, man. There was a lot of fighters there. They have, Nate Diaz came in. I don't know if they ever showed him on screen, but he was there.
Yeah, I
Um,
saw I saw photos. I don't know if they showed them on screen, but I did see
the
photos.
Nemkov was there.
Nemkov, I
Couture was
saw.
there. Hoist Gracie was there.
Chael
Uh,
obviously was there. Chael Sonnen
Chael
was
was
there.
there. Phil Davis was there. Lance Larkin. I mean, a lot of the Bellator fighters as well, but Angela Hill was there. There was just a lot of it was kind of the old school feel on the floor where there's like okay there's a lot of people around like but as far as like the feel it definitely felt like a little bit of a there was there it felt like it was a somber kind of atmosphere at least for me. I don't think it was for the people that were with me because a couple of them it was their first time going to an event, but I did notice a little bit of a different
Mm.
atmosphere at least. Maybe it was just me, maybe it's just me, maybe it's just my
No, it
brain
obviously
telling me.
wasn't. It obviously wasn't just you. If Jimmy Smith was talking about it on, I mean, he made a couple. I know he did a couple of podcast interviews about it, and so you know, Coker was asked on Media Day Wednesday about an update on what's going on, and he didn't want to answer just then. And then he said, I'll answer that on after the event on Saturday." And we thought, and I think he thought so too, that he'd have some sort of update because he reminded everybody a few times after the event was that you remember he's an employee under the Viacom Paramount whole thing that owns Bellator currently. He's an employee too, so he knows as much as they're letting employees know. But his job is to be the president of Bellator MMA, and as what his job entails is him trying to move forward with events, and he's going to keep trying to do that. Bellator's still advertising 301. You got guys like Helwani saying shit like that. Nobody wants to pay for it, and 300 might be it, and a couple of other guys that want to be famous on Twitter for saying that's a wrap too. And what you're telling me about the sound and stuff, maybe there's some truth to it. I'll believe you, or because you were boots on the ground before these fucking yo-yos that are trying to break news from miles away from the people that actually know anything. But when Scott Coker said that, um, I was just like, we have to remember that yeah, a lot of people want to blame fault on him and all that shit, but I mean, it's just like, the guy probably is not being told everything he wants to know either. And sure, I'm sure he knows more than he can say, but again, he's probably contractually obligated to not say what he wants to say. So I like what he did with Bellator. I think it got real fun with the tournaments and cross promotion with Ryzen. I think Scott Coker's ideas were just ahead of where MMA was when he did them, like the Dynamite shows and but like people are talking about one championship, but Scott Coker already mixed kickboxing and MMA in events, in the past multiple times, and he's cross promoting. He's not hating on other promotions. He's literally willing to work with other promotions. So he's a good guy for the sport, man. I don't agree with the folks that try to bash him. So I think it's worth mentioning that he said that, because not everybody pays attention to his. It's not like Dana White post fight press conferences where everybody fucking watches it to watch him lose his temper and turn red. Coker's actually a pretty mellow guy and says some good things. He actually loves martial arts.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. Yeah. I mean, everything you said's true. I mean, could I nitpick and say, yeah, in hindsight, like there's some things that I would have liked to have seen with Bellator? I mean, I've criticized them. I brought up things that I thought that they were
Mhm.
doing that perhaps was costing them fans, or some engagements with fans over the years. But I mean, in hindsight, if their finances were so bad that they can't be going, I mean, it doesn't matter. I maybe keeping smaller shows and not,
Mhm.
you know, running the kind of the Indian reservation thing between, that Bjorn Rebney was kind of doing for the vast majority of his run, and um, but maybe it wasn't successful then either, because otherwise they wouldn't have got rid of him and everything. So, um, but he brought a lot of good fighters in. He put on a lot of good events. So, like I said, I mean, it's in my
Mhm.
mind, for me personally, it's been 36 nights of entertainment with friends and family, um, and then times out enjoying it, watching it in person, and then several hundred, 180 times watching it at home on TV, or whatever the number is,
Mhm.
So, or 280, whatever, So, um, you know, I hate to see something leave. That's what for me it was like. It wasn't so much the feeling of like, okay, this is it. It was like, this sucks that another one's going to be gone, because
Yeah.
people have been around, like me and you have been around for the fall of so many organizations that
Yeah.
were entertaining.
And that's
You
what's
know,
crazy. There's so many organizations popping up. When you think about it, there's so many like smaller organizations popping up. It should be harder for an organization to fail. But I know I said it on Twitter, and a couple other people have already been tweeting it. Not for nothing. Like, why didn't Viacom? I think we said it last week too. Why didn't they put more events on CBS? You wait till they're about to sink, and you put one event on CBS because it was Fedor, and that was it. Like you could have put a few events on CBS, garnered
they
interest.
all should have
Not
been on
event,
CBS.
yeah,
They didn't even have to. They didn't even have to be live on CBS. They could have been live on Showtime and then replayed on CBS at midnight. You know what I mean?
hmm
Like, they could have got it on there. They could have done 2 a.m. I don't care how you put it on there, but it allows people to use a DVR that don't pay for
yeah.
Showtime, watch the fights. Um, you know, I don't know. You mentioned all the other organizations. Not a lot of other organizations really have giant crowds. I
That's what
mean,
I'm saying. Like, yeah, but there's so many popping up. It should be harder to fail now. And if they do get sold, or they go away, or whatever the hell all these people are saying, it's the fault of the current owners, of the folks at Viacom CBS. I mean, back your shit, man. You own the thing. Promote the hell out of it. Push it. You know what like, it's
well,
just
that's what I'm
stupid
saying.
to
Like,
me.
they've had pretty, and I don't mean to insult anybody who might be a friend of yours or somebody you've worked with, or who's behind the scenes, but like, their social media hasn't been great. It just hasn't. It hasn't been great. It hasn't always been terrible, but it's not. You don't. And then you got, nobody else announces it. It got brought up by Josh Thompson something a year ago or so, like with the Ryzen event. Like, it doesn't get a whole lot of publicity when you're blacked out basically from Fox Sports and ESPN. Like, and even Fox Sports doesn't count anymore. If you're not on ESPN getting, put across the ticker on the bottom, then you're
Mhm.
really you're borderline considered relevant, and unfortunately they fell into that. And when the UFC went into a deal with ESPN, it kind of secured that lock of, okay, well, we're never going to advertise any of our competitors' fights. Now they're all it's a sport. That's the thing. Like it's they advertise as MMA. Well, they're not really MMA. They're
Mhm.
UFC. The ESPN is UFC's broadcast partner.
Mhm.
They don't. It'd be like only showing, Dodger games, and then advertising you as being the worldwide leader in baseball. No, no, you showed one team's games. That's basically what you're doing. So, um, and not every Bellator event deserved the headlines, but there were several fights that
Mhm.
a push here or there, or some headline, Sports Center news, announcing a fight or showing a press conference or a weigh-in could have probably went a long way to help some stuff. But I just don't think that I think that they were always just kind of a step behind, especially
It
post
keeps
COVID.
dragging though, and that's one of the other things Scott Coker said is, because back in August he was like, we'll have something in 60, 90 days. Here we are at that mark, and there's still no update. And now it's frustrating for the fighters too, because especially the fighters that are signed with them and you've renewed contracts with them, and it's like this is their livelihood. I mean, literally, Aaron Jeffrey just posted on his Instagram like I need to know what the hell's going on so I can get at it. Like the guy just wants to fight. Like all these guys just want to fight. They had Leo McCourt and Cyborg face off. You know what I mean? Like which by the way you call that like you call that fight like right on the money, first round. I don't understand why Kat Zingano was so uptight about the way it ended, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, man, it's just like, I mean, the fighters need to know. I mean, otherwise they're gonna. What if they start going on their own? Are you gonna like sue them if they because they want to fight and make money? Johnny Eblin and Aaron Jeffrey should be that match should be booked. But I mean, yeah, obviously we've seen history has shown like having a broadcast partner counts for a lot. I mean, with Pride, when they lost their deal with Sky Perfect TV, that's pretty much when the fall of Pride happened and all the stuff that happened. And like one championship, if they're doing well, it's because of their thing with Amazon Prime. I mean, I wish I hope so. I mean, hell, if Bellator wound up on Amazon Prime, I would literally like not need to watch watch sports anywhere else except Spectation Sports, which if you're looking for up and
I
coming
li-
guys.
I just right now I think the hope is that PFL does
Mhm.
buy it and they were able to have good leadership,
I
and
guess.
I mean that's all we got right now,
There's
right?
like 8 leaders there.
Well, that's all we have though. All we have to
Yeah.
do, because right now, like if it doesn't work, then there is no competition. Not that there really
Hmm.
is for the UFC, but like if PFL buys up one of the other ones and then they fail and they go down the tubes, it's a 2-for-1 shot,
Hmm.
and it's over. And you mentioned those fighters and stuff.
Hmm.
I don't. They're under contract. They're gonna have to abide by the contract, but. Yeah, it's interesting that Cyborg and McCourt. Cyborg was basically booking the fight for New Year's for
Hmm.
Ryzen.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And Cyborg's smart when it comes to promoting herself, and she can see the writing on the wall. I'm sure her team, uh, Ray Elby and those guys see the writing on the wall,
Hmm.
and they're already angling for Ryzen, and it's smart
Yeah.
because you start to angle for that, and I don't. And then she always Cyborg. The thing with Cyborg in PFL is you always got that Kyla Harrison, and then Pacheco matchups.
Yeah.
So you really have two fresh, new, competitive matchups for Cyborg, which in theory could really headline a fairly big event if they went to the right location.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If you come to Southern California, you bring Harrison, or I mean, Harrison could probably do an East Coast show. You could
Hmm.
probably do a New Jersey thing with Harrison and Cyborg, and put a nice amount of people in seats, and turn a profit if you do it right. But I don't know, man. It's going to be an interesting. I mean, who knows what the news is going to be? Like you said,
Yeah.
it might be broken right now. Usually during our show, something crazy goes down. But I just hope that you mentioned the fighters. You got the employees, you got cutmen, you
Yeah.
got everybody. Hey, you got referees that are book. Herb Dean might be booking himself for November 17th or whatever it's supposed to be for Bellator, if that goes out, then if they just decide to fold that event in a couple weeks or a month from now, I
Yeah.
mean, personally as a fan, I wouldn't touch the event right now. I wouldn't book flights. I wouldn't book hotel. I wouldn't buy a ticket. I would wait and see because it doesn't. When they're telling you they're not gonna make it, you kind of got to believe what they're telling you.
Yeah.
You know, when Viacom's not out the door come this month, then how would you think an event next month would go? And what would
Yeah.
PFL and
I
PFL's going to just
I think
throw an event?
the guy making the calls over there though is just I mean, ever since it was Kevin K was the one that liked MMA and loved Bellator and the UFC and mixed martial arts, and when he was out the door, it seems like that was the beginning of the end, Um so whoever that guy is now, I mean, I kind of relate him. If you guys for any folks that are readers out there, there's a book called The Psychopath Test, where it's and by John Ronson or Ron Johnson. I always mess up his name, but there's a chapter in there where he talks about the Sunbeam Foods guy. His name was Al Dunlap, and they used to call him Chainsaw Al. And all he did was fire people and lay people off to save money, to the point that the company folded. But he walked away with his fat pockets, and it just seems like that's what's happening over there. So, but
I don't know. We'll see.
fingers crossed for them, because I love Bellator. I love their people, love their staff. Danny Brenner, CJ Tuttle, shout out to you guys, always treating me and everybody really good for that wants to cover the sport. It's a shame that they're putting those people that are actually good for martial arts through this shit. So anyway.
Yeah, well, hopefully all those people are able to pick up with
Mhm.
with the deal going through, and I mean, I guess that maybe there would be a positive to run Bellator separate. At least you keep those people on payroll for another little while, and perhaps allow people to kind of figure out what the future is gonna unfold like here. So anyways, we got so that's Bellator. But overall, just real quick to not end it on a sad note, fights were fun. Main event was lackluster. Cyborg fight was exciting.
Mhm.
Crowd went crazy for Ali Malay. Sad to see the fight end that way. Um, Prelims were okay. It was a 6.5 out of 10. It wasn't the best show ever. It had its moments.
I like
But
that. I mean, watching at home, I like that virtual reality thing they did with. I mean, with the opener, they did the Pride opener. But if you haven't checked out the broadcast, they did the mixed reality thing with the Bellator 300 logo and stuff like that, and it was pretty cool looking.
yeah, I mean, all that stuff's cool, and hopefully the stage. The weird thing was, while I said the sound was bad, it was the biggest stage they've ever had. The screen was huge.
Hmm.
If usually they have the two on the side or the one, like this was.
Sakaki Bara was there too. I wonder if he was that's why they did the Pride
Yeah, like it was
beginning.
like the same size screen as they had for one. I mean, it was huge.
Hmm.
So that was kind of weird, and it looked great. The optics of the stage and all that stuff was great, but like the sound sucked. So I don't know if that was just an oversight. Maybe I don't know. There's no excuse for it, but that's neither here nor there. But we wish the best to them. Like you said, a week and a half we got the UFC fights, so hopefully the fights we talked about hold. They're late, but let's see if they hold.
Yeah,
And we'll see kind of what goes from there. Our boy John Brumley is fighting on the 21st.
the same day. Yeah,
Yeah, on the same day. That night though. So,
so you
if
can watch UFC, and then you can watch John Brumley if you're out in your neck of the woods.
yeah, he's fighting for Up Next Fighting. Headlines by another one of our former podcast guest, uh, James, um, and that's kind of going to do it. I mean, I don't think there's anything else really kicking off this week. There's no BKFC. Um,
There is
and
a
there's
UFC event at the Apex.
Youssef versus Barboza
Yeah.
should be an exciting fight, but that's about it. So fans can follow us at Combat Hour on Twitter, at Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, and Old Head Carb on Twitch. And as always, you can check us out at allaccessmma.com. Check out allaccessmma.com for our MMA podcast, their MMA news, and their MMA stories. Have a good time. Good night, everyone. Stay
We'll catch
safe.
we'll catch you a week after next.
That's it.